What's up, everybody? Gary Jonhson here. Some know me as Rattletrap 1776. Yeah, finally back live again, getting to go live for the first time in, I think, 3 weeks. But then again, everybody needs a break every now and then. And then also I had some family circumstances that came up. I had to go to a family funeral. So I don't air my things out like some people do on Facebook, which I think people should also stop doing as well. But we're going to get straight into everything. Titled this one, What Part of 45-47 Don't You Understand? Old Tanya Tucker song called What Part of No Don't You Understand? I actually have written with the guy who wrote that song, Mr. Gerald Smith. Anyway, what part of this don't you understand? I mean, it's like a broken record, week in and week out. Week in, week out, week in, week out, week in, week out. It's like a broken record. That's what a broken record is. It's over and over and over and over and over and over and over. People say, oh, well, all he does is sit there and repeat things over and over and over. All you need to know is this. Once you comprehend the laws and the orders that apply to this and only this, you don't need anything else. So I saw a message earlier from someone that sent it was a post from X, and it's people demanding things from Cash Patel and Pam Bondi and all these things. Demanding action in a pre-planned strategic operation is like yelling at your microwave with a frozen dinner in it. All right, that's the same thing. You're demanding something that you don't even know what you're demanding. You're yelling about something you don't even know what you're yelling for. All you people out there, you just want arrest. Arrest. Where are the arrests? Why we have arrest? Arrest, arrest, arrest. You people are what's wrong with this nation. You're not looking at how we got here. How did we get here? Why do you want to live in a nation where you're demanding for arrest? Why don't you want to live in a nation where you can prevent these things from happening? You're the reason why we are here. You're the reason why we're in this operation. You're the reason why there had to be military hitting the streets. You're the reason. You're the problem. And so many of you, you're so busy just wanting to point that finger somewhere else versus looking at all the other fingers pointing back at you. You're the problem. You're sitting here demanding things when you don't even know how anything operates and functions. It's kind of like me. I'm not a cook. I can cook certain things, but I know when I get hungry that I better start eating before I get what? Hangry. But I can't cook certain things. So it'd be like me wanting a sweet potato pie and then me going and yelling at one of my relatives because they're not finished with the pie yet. Because they know how to cook the pie. I don't. So how can I be demanding towards something that I have no control over? All right? Wouldn't even know what to do. If they laid out the ingredients and said, here's all the ingredients to sweet potato pie, there you go, have at it. Guess what I'm going to do? So why would I yell at the cook that can make the pie for me? See, that's what you're doing to President Trump. That's what you're doing to all these people. And the whole thing is a pre-plan, meaning it's already been thought of. It's already been planned out. Therefore, what you should be doing during this time period is reading, studying, and seeking to comprehend what are the ingredients to preventing this from happening again. That's where your we the people duty and responsibilities come in. It ain't your duty and responsibility to yell at the people who know what's going on and operate in this daily. We know what we're supposed to know. Why don't you know what you're supposed to know? So what you're doing is you're doing the same thing as what liberals do when they're yelling, kicking, cussing, screaming, fussing, and all that stuff. You're doing the same thing. And guess what it's falling on? Deaf ears. If you want your voice known, you want your voice to be heard, then your voice needs to be applicable. Just yelling and screaming don't mean anything. If you don't know what's going on lawfully, it's just a bunch of noise. If you know what's going on lawfully, you wouldn't be yelling and screaming. You'd be sitting back, kick back, and then telling your friends and your family, this is what's going on. Because Americans are like a bunch of school children who don't know what's going on, who only care about PE, who only care about, kickball or softball or baseball or basketball. You're a bunch of those kids, right? So that's what had to happen with this dash. This whole operation is where, you've heard me say it, a lot of you out there are parents. And a lot of you love your children. You want your children to have opportunities when they grow up. But when they're children, they don't know that maybe picking up a knife is going to hurt them. They open that knife up like that, right? And they don't know that that knife is sharp and can cut them. It just looks shiny to them. It looks sparkly and shiny, and they see the little tab on there, and they're like, ooh, it's shiny. Ooh, shiny. And then you see them with the knife, and you're like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. And then what do? You take it from them, what do? They start crying. Because all they saw was a shiny part. They didn't know that that little blade there could slice their finger or their arm or whatever it is they applied it to. Or another child for that matter. So you take it from them, right? You put it up properly. And then one day when they get old enough, you say, hey, this is a knife, right? And it's sharp. And it's for cutting things. All right, and it can also slice your finger, slice your arm, slice anything. It's going to hurt really bad. All right, so you teach them that. Same thing with a weapon. This is a weapon, obviously, but any other kind of form of weapon. You teach them that. And then you hope that when they get old enough to fully comprehend everything, then they do what? They appreciate what you taught them. Americans right now, you know what you're acting like? A bunch of unappreciative, snot-nosed brats. That's what you're acting like. And see, the people who do know the laws and orders fluently and see this like the globe it is, like when you stand up here and you look 40,000 foot view down, when you know all the laws and orders that comprise and make up this 45-47, just like this, I always show it just like that, because that's what it is. When you know that, it's easy to see that, hey, there's ways to make yourself applicable through this, but a lot of you are just wasting your time, you're wasting your energy, and you're wasting your voice, which means you're also wasting what? Your oxygen. When you could be doing other things that are much more productive and adding to this operation. Because where we are right now on December the 28th, so many more Americans should be way more awake than what they are on what's going on versus all the yelling, screaming, fussing, arguing, cussing, griping, complaining. I mean, it's already disappointing to someone like me, and I'm on the low level of the totem pole. But way up here, the war room, and the ones who had pre-planned this for your own good, what a disgrace Americans have become. It's a disgrace. And it's a disgrace. It's my very first video. Can go back. Disgrace. You can go back and listen to me again. It's a disgrace to every memorial grave in this land that Americans need drama. You need drama to wake you up? You need Nicki Minaj? My God, have mercy. You wonder why more veterans don't get involved, meaning more vocal, more visual? It's because Americans like you love drama. You got to have drama to wake your butts up. You got to have things that don't matter and people that matter to God, but they don't matter to anything else. You got to have something that's just like, here you go. Here, silver platter, here you go. Here's your little silver spoon. No, hold on, don't touch it. I'll get it for you. Here you go. I mean, it's a disgrace and a mockery to all of our memorial graves across this land that so many Americans look this atrocious when all it requires is putting all the drama aside, putting the propaganda aside. That is the whole purpose of this man. That's the whole purpose of 45-47 was to put the past behind. So why are you still wallowing in the past? Why are you still acting like the past? Why are you still feeding on what the past fed on? You want to know why people like me are happy and I hunt daily? I go hunting every day. I'm going hunting this afternoon. I'm going to sit on my stand, talk to the good Lord. That's where I get church at. It's right there on that tree stand pew. You wonder why we're calm, collective? Simple. I don't feed into drama. A lot of you still, when I go live and I talk about country music, guess what happens? The numbers go, shoot. Because you people don't want to hear the truth. You want your own portion of the truth and build it around your little fuzzy feeling right here. That's what you want. You don't want to hear the truth. Country music, just as corrupt. Music industry, just as corrupt. But oh no, to y'all, oh, music's my escape. That's how we escape all this over here. No, if you knew what was really going on, nothing's an escape. This is a true good versus evil, and you're missing out on that. You're looking like cold funnel cakes too while you're at it. Last I checked, a cold funnel cake don't taste good. It's only good when it's hot. So many of you are missing out because you just want to focus on things that are 50-50 topics. And that's what my notes are today. 50-50 topics. I believe in a God. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe that God created the world. I don't believe that Jesus did. I believe they're separate. All right? That's my personal belief. If you don't believe that way, more power to you. You know why? Because that's a 50-50 topic. You can't prove your belief no more than I can prove mine. Therefore, I have mine right here. You should have yours right there on you. It's a 50-50 topic. So why are you arguing about it? Why are you in the comment boxes arguing with people over Israel? 99.999% of you who are arguing over Israel, you're not Jewish and you have not Hebrew descent. You have no knowledge except for what fits your little fuzzy feeling right here that wants to fit your feeling and what you think and what you've been taught your whole life. Well, maybe you've been taught wrong your whole life. But on a 50-50 topic, that's not for somebody to sit on a video and tell you what you should think or believe. I'm showing you what's operational, all right, with the 45-47. And a lot of you are still sitting there in your seat looking at Israel the way you want to look at it versus looking at the world as a globe, all right? Don't matter if it's flat or round. That's another stupid argument as well, all right, that you cannot absolutely prove. It's a 50-50 topic. So don't get hung up on the word globe and just listen to the 40,000-foot view, because a 40,000-foot view of this right here outlines what it outlines. It is to get you out of those topics and put those topics only in your life, your family. If that's how you want to raise your children, more power to you. But you shouldn't have your children going to some schoolhouse and telling some other child because their parents are telling them that there is a God and that God sent his son and this, that. Your children shouldn't be telling them that they're wrong. That's a 50-50 topic that stays in your household. And or maybe you have a little small group or a friend group or whatever. That's between you and them. That's not on a federal level. And it shouldn't be on a state level. Now, our founders didn't write in any kind of founding document of a separation in a church and a state. They voiced that. See, a lot of people don't know that either. So many people don't even know the history of our nation and the founding fathers. And especially liberals. So let's pick on liberals. But liberals, they spew off the word Constitution. They don't know what's in it. They don't know how it's applicable. Same thing with the Declaration of Independence. I have never heard a liberal once in any conversation, any debate. I've never heard a liberal mention the Declaration of Independence. Not one time. But I dare say some Republicans can make it applicable. And it does matter. Abraham Lincoln saying the Declaration of Independence is way more important than the Constitution, and I can show you how it is. But so many of you, you can't even apply it either. So when you got 50-50 topics out there, you need to learn how to separate that. That's how we quell all of these arguments and all this drama. That's how you out there quell that. When you start taking 50-50 topics that are only personal, and it should be reciprocated all around the land, if every person will come together on that one little thing, and on a 50-50 topic, keep that to yourself, unless you can engage cordially in a conversation with someone else, and then you too walk away if you still disagree on it. It's a 50-50 topic. It doesn't apply to everybody. So many people out there, I'm still seeing it in comment boxes. I see it when people screenshot it and show me certain things. All right, I see it in my messages. I do see my messages, all right? And I see all these people in comment boxes about Israel. Oh, why are we still funding Israel? Why are we still funding the Zionists? No, there's that. You are so ignorant. You are so ignorant. It is a massive topic. Massive topic. But it's still a 50-50 topic. And a lot of your colors are coming out. The people who are doing that, that's your true colors coming out. And you're showing you don't know too much about the Bible. And a lot of these people claim to be Christians. But let me go ahead and preach to you today. All right, not a preacher, but I can preach a little bit. The Bible does say that not all those who cry, yeah, yeah, Lord, Lord, are going to heaven. There's a lot of people who are Jesus right here only. Jesus, the Bible, God, Christian, all right here. That's it. It ain't right here. Because if it was right here, you wouldn't be worried about all these other things. You'd keep it right here and know what you know, and you wouldn't be in the comment boxes looking atrocious. All right? You can't prove Israel no more than anything. You can't prove that Israel is not the same Israel. You can't prove that. You're only going by what fits your little fuzzy right here. You're only going by what fits what you want to feel. That's a massive topic. Let God handle that. If Israel's been scattered, then God knows where it was scattered. How about that? Did you ever think about that? If Israel, if the tribes of Judah have been scattered, then God knows where they are. Your duty, your purpose, and responsibility is to know what you can know and what applies to you that does apply to all of us as a whole. 50-50 topics don't apply to all of us as a whole. And when you say stuff about money going to Israel and Ukraine, you don't even see the money exchange. You just are going by what you've heard. And that's your problem. Because I've been telling you over and over again, when you know what's going on lawfully, the whole thing's in operation. See, you're looking at it like this. You're looking at, oh, well, this has already happened. And then this happened, a little dash here. And now you're looking at this. And you're only right here in the 47. Matter of fact, you're not even in part of the 4. It's so hard to get the fingers there. You're barely on the first 4 of 47. You're looking at all this as every 4 years, every 4 years. And you know what that is? That's the past talking to you. 45-47 is the whole operation. That's the visual. You look at it as a whole. The whole thing is a pre-planned strategic operation. The whole thing, the laws and orders outlined right now, currently, prove this. And you'll hear people out there it's the same group of people. Oh, you guys are just dragging this out just to make a podcast. No. Ain't nobody doing that. First off, retired veteran. 2, got an opportunity to come back to get a badge. Got it. All right. And I'm on my little tiny little level. But by law, where we are, we're still in a partial continuity government. The law shows this. Not me. The law shows this. And because we're in a partial continuity government, we're still in a partial military occupation. President Trump told you last October, right before the election, he specifically said that the great liberation starts on November the 5th. And the Great Restoration starts on January the 20th. He didn't say it finishes. See, so many of people out there, you're having terminology problems. You just want to hear the first thing that fits you a little fuzzy. And guess what? You're overlooking everything you need to look at. The Great Liberation starts on November the 5th, which was the election. The Great Restoration starts on January the 20th. Those terms are not government terms. They're all law of war manual terms. And restoration is actually a law of land warfare term. And now, if you didn't know any of that, you get a hall pass for a moment, right? But until someone's heard me, and I'm the only one out there who puts this in one big package, the 45-47, I'm the only one with the books, the #1 best-selling books. You know, The Midnight Rider Rides Again. This is part 1. Part 2 sitting here. It's a little bit bigger, right? Well, I'm the only one that talks about it as a whole. So therefore, what do people do? Well, why are you the only one who talks? You focus on what? The negative. Why are you the only one who talks about it? How come all these other generals and colonels and generals are under NDAs and they're still also part of the operation? Most colonels are, because a colonel is only one step away from a general. All right. A lot of these people have been called back voluntarily and involuntarily. And a lot of them are working externally with the internal. But there's veterans out there, they don't have a clue what's going on, but you don't worry about them. You don't worry about, they're a veteran for a reason. They're still a civilian as well. You don't worry about them. See, when you focus on things that don't matter, what do you end up with? Things that don't matter. You end up with what? Excuses. How is it that I do have books? How is it that they are #1 bestsellers? How is it that they do outline a full operation? How is it that there are people out there who made them #1 bestsellers? I didn't do that. They did that. People did that. And people are doing what? When they read it, they're going and telling their friends and their family, hey, you got to read this. The whole thing we've been watching is an operation. It's a strategic, pre-planned operation, meaning we already know what's going to take place, right? We, meaning the military, the generals, right? The admirals, all right? President Donald John Trump is the face of that. He's not the whole thing. He's the face of it. He's the one that says, yes, I'll put my face on that. I'll put my name on that. I'll put my brand on that. I'll put my life on that. How is it? How is it that I know all this? How is it that I'm always ahead of everything? I'm 3, 5, 6 weeks, months, and years ahead of everything. How is it? That's just how special operations works, ladies and gentlemen. That's how irregular warfare works. That's how unconventional warfare works. That's how guerrilla warfare works. And I'm not telling anything before it happens. It's already happened. They're giving you the disclosure of it. Some things, though, I'm showing you before because it's lawful. I'm not showing you the mission. I'm showing you the application. And you, if you would marinate on that and stew on that and chew on that, then you would have what you need. And you would have already known it yourself as well. And that's how you feel validated. Validation is not drama and propaganda. And it's 99% of these podcasts out there, they're drama and propaganda. Calling for action, demanding action when the whole thing's pre-planned operation and the laws and orders outline that. I just saw a post right before I went live it was a CNN post, right, who's been hammered badly by President Trump. And it said, Americans are somewhat thinking about 2028, but it's time we start talking about post-Trump 2028. First off, it's President Trump. Get that straight in your mouth. All right, some of you out there are still calling him Trump because it's just easier. It's President Trump. All right, it's wartime President Trump. It's Supreme Commander President Trump. All right, get it correct. All right, and then post-2028, you ain't got to worry about that. It's already been taken care of. All right, this whole thing was a strategic pre-planned operation to make sure we maintain and sustain. But you, the people, have to start reading, studying, comprehending what you're supposed to know, which is your duty, your responsibility. You can't talk about accountability until you comprehend duty and responsibility. A lot of you are demanding accountability. When you demand action, which means arrest, that's accountability. How can you demand accountability when you don't even know responsibility? So nobody's dragging out anything. If you would go read, study, know what you're supposed to know, which is your duty and your responsibility. That is prescribed in the Declaration of Independence. If you would do that, then you'd be able to see what's taking place a lot more peacefully, comfortably, but also you would have that validation in your heart, and you'd be confident. We're a nation of laws and orders, and President Trump repeats this over and over and over again. What the heck do you think he's talking about? How can you be like, oh, yeah. Are you just yeah, and because you want the touchdown? You're not looking at the drive to get there? I mean, that's what you're doing when you yell for arrest. You're not looking at all the ups and the downs and the actual operations. You're not thinking about the actual boots on the ground that created this. You just want that. So once that happens, guess what's going to happen? I've talked about this before. It's like the birthday present, right? Or the birthday party. You don't look at all the people who pre-planned the party, who went out, got the decorations, the tables, set the tables up, set the chairs up, bought the cake, baked the cake, whichever one, doesn't matter. Went, got the candles. All right, got your number on there, got your age correct. Oh, we got oh, Susie's going to be 47 today. Let's get the 4 and the 7, put it on there, or we got to draw it on there, make sure age is correct. You don't look at all that. You just show up to the party and want to be at the party and enjoy the party and the festivities of the party. The little social bug. Oh, here I am. I'm here. I'm finally here. Look at me. I'm here. You enjoy the party, festivity. You eat, you drink, then you leave. Then you also don't do what? Not only did you not appreciate who pre-planned and prepared, you also didn't do what? Help clean up. Oh, but you enjoyed the birthday party. So see, when you demand for arrest, you're not looking at all that took place to get there. You're not appreciative of it, which is also another level of disrespect, because you're not respecting the process. You're not respecting what it took to make it happen. Then when you see the arrest, guess what's going to happen? It's going to be just like the birthday party, the birthday gift. Once you see it, that first reaction is, oh, sweet. Oh, happy day. But then what comes after the birthday party? Real life sets back in. Same thing with what will happen with the rest. You'll see it, and then you're going to do what? You're going to go right back into what? Not knowing what the heck's going on. Not knowing how to prevent people from getting to this level again. Prevent our government from getting to this level again. And when you really look at it, I outline it in part one especially, with 535 members of Congress. There are 347 million population, give or take, right now in the United States of America. 535 members of Congress tricked, connived, deceived, misled, lied to, gaslit, manipulated all that population as it grew. 535 members of Congress. 300 million people plus have no idea how the functions and operations for just 535 people work. That is pathetic. That is sad. That is sad that so many people don't even know the functions and operations of how those 535 people work daily. And you don't want to know how to prevent that. It's easy to yell at, oh, a finished product. You look dumb doing it. It goes back to the pie again. I can't bake a sweet potato pie. I don't know how to make one. I know it requires sweet potatoes. I know it requires some form of sugar. I know it requires pan. But I don't know the ingredients of that. So why would I yell at the cook to cook something that I don't know how to cook? Why would I yell at them? If I want to yell anywhere, anyhow, anyway, I should do what? Yell at myself for being like, I love sweet potato pie. I've ate it my whole life. I love it so much. Why haven't I learned how to make it? If I was going to yell. So many of you are yelling at people and demanding things from people you don't even know the process to. And you have no appreciation of it. You're unappreciative and you're disrespectful. Because if you knew the process and if you knew the functions and operations of this component, you wouldn't be yelling right now. You'd be grinning and smiling because people like me are validated daily. Daily, weekly, monthly, yearly at this point. I'm validated every time. Every time just about President Trump posts something outside of nominations and all the other stuff, when he posts something, I'm validated every time. It comes just like December the 2nd. Here we are now. Here we are almost 4 weeks removed from December the 2nd. President Trump posted one of the biggest validation posts since he put the dash on the ball cap. That one of the biggest posts that validated these books right here, when he specifically said that all executive actions, which are your proclamations, treaties, executive orders, anything, all executive actions, legal documents, pardons, everything, from quote-unquote Joe, were terminated. No legal effect. No legal effect in Latin means void ad initio, right? You know what that means? It means it never existed. That is full validation of the dash, because the dash in irregular warfare and unconventional warfare is a puppet government. Which means the military was in full control, as my documents outline. See, these books stem from my documents that were published January 2021, that I wrote on from 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, and then published for my friends and family, because no one knew me yet, except for my friends and family. And I have people to this day that are on those documents. Their emails were added to the Google Drive. Some of those are close friends of mine. Some of those are family members. So I have full validation proof of that. And they're still on my Google Drives. And the dates don't lie. Timestamps don't lie. And what did I tell you in those Google documents way back then? The documents, which are on the documents.info to this day, but they're dated because I didn't update those anymore. I wrote these books. Those are the updates. And I put it in a chronological order where you can follow it just like this. Right? What's in there? Military control. Military's in control of this nation. Then I went back, put all the laws. I put a few in the documents, but I went back and put all the laws and orders in a chronological order for you. All right, now if I put everything in here, it would look like Obamacare, which would take up this whole screen. If you've ever seen the book for Obamacare, it is like, you can't even see my arms, how wide it is. All right. So, December the 2nd was the post for you. It was the validation. President Trump put this dash on here April the 2nd, 2023, which was a midway point of 21 to 25. It's a midway, and it's a proclamation. It's a visual proclamation. It's a visual validation. Didn't matter if you knew. Didn't matter. It's because the whole thing's in operation. So it matters to who? Operators. Right? So in the end, it'll be unveiled. Right? History's going to account for the dash. And President Trump's post, December the 2nd, just this December the 2nd, all executive actions, everything that looked legal by quote-unquote Joe, terminated. No legal effect. And no legal effect. Those three words, that terminology, those three words are in Latin, void ad initio. So go put that in Google. And what's it tell you? That means what? Never existed. Never existed. Which means for future presidents, 20, 30, 40, 50 years out, guess what future presidents cannot do? Nothing from 21 to 25. If it never existed, guess what that means? Can't be revised. They never existed. It was a puppet government. Irregular warfare. Unconventional warfare. Now go back to President Trump's speeches in October last year, right before the election. What did he say? We're an occupied country. We will soon no longer be an occupied country. The Great Liberation starts November the 5th. The Great Restoration starts January the 20th. Starts. He didn't say finishes. Starts. And so many of you, if you would just slow down, divorce your feelings, divorce your emotions, slow down, know what you're supposed to know, divorce also all the propaganda and the drama, which means 99% of the people you're following are just there for what? Facial recognition. They're not veterans, one. Now, I'm not the person that thinks you got to be a veteran to be in the know. I don't. But when you're a leader and you're trying to lead people through an operation, you probably want the people who know that it's an operation. Not these people who are trying to take a stab at something, or those people who take a, they blindfold themselves and they're trying to put the dart on the ass, the little donkey picture. Remember that? Remember those games where you take the dart and you try to land that on the ass, right? The tail. That's what most of these podcasters are doing. They just want a name and a face. And what world are we in right now? We're in the social media world. It's good when it's good, but it's worse when it's bad. Because so many people, they just want a name and a face. And most of them are doing what? They're trying to make millions of dollars. They're trying to make money off of you and your feelings and your emotions. That's why I don't care about your feelings and emotions from the standpoint of hurting your feelings. But when I hurt your feelings, I have a solution for your butt hurt feelings. It's this. I'm not your boyfriend. I'm not your husband. I'm not your daddy. I'm not your cousin. I'm not your family member. I'm not your preacher. Right? I am someone who doesn't have a fancy background. Right? This is not a fancy background. This is not one of those. And I'm not knocking people who do. I'm on with plenty of people who have them. But the point being is that I'm real, genuine. Right? I know what I know. I can't unknow what I know. But I know what I know lawfully. And we're a nation of laws and orders. Now, I'm not a guy who loves laws and orders just because it's a law. There's a lot of laws we need to abolish. Woo, are there? There's a lot of orders that should have never been given in history. Ever. But we can't rewrite history. No different than the libtards try to rewrite history with other things. We can't do that. So many of you are focused on things that don't matter from the past. They just don't matter. All right? You clean up what you clean up here. The Law War Manual even talks about relevancy. It talks about how you can't go back 40, 50, 60 years and prosecute people for things that, hindsight's what? 2020. Why didn't you know about it when it was going on? See, a lot of you yelling about Ukraine, you're just yelling about it because you were told to yell about it. A lot of you yelling about Israel, you're only yelling about it because you were told to yell about it. and you still don't even know what you're yelling about because you have no inclination of what's going on lawfully. Just like Iran. That executive order with Iran has been in place since 1979. I don't mind telling my age anymore. I used to not tell it because of country music. They wouldn't sign you to a record deal, but I don't want to be a part of their trash system, their rigged system, so I don't care anymore. But I'll be 43 years old this coming February. All right, 43. All right. That executive order with Iran is older than me. Executive order from 1979 has been open. They have continued it every single year since 1979. Why? It declared a national emergency. Is that an emergency, ladies and gentlemen? After 47 years, is that an emergency? I don't think so. So all these wars that President Trump says he ended, the 8 wars in 8 months he talked about, every single one of them, majority of them were in proclamations and or executive orders. From whom? The swamp. With national emergencies that they were keeping open. Why were they keeping them open? Why were they continuing them every year? Ukraine. Obama had 3 executive orders in the month of March alone in 2014 for Ukraine. He had another one in December 2014. So 4 executive orders with the national emergency declared for Ukraine in the year of 2014 alone. If you've ever heard my full breakdown of Ukraine in the year of 2014 and how that applies to old VP Biden and Hunter and Pelosi and Mitt Romney and John Kerry and everything else around it, Victoria Nuland, Marco Rubio, who questioned Victoria Nuland, and how they finally admitted there are bioweapon labs in Ukraine, then you would know what's going on. Now it's not that post for me to do that. I'm not going to break down Ukraine in this one. I've already done that. But see, so many people are yelling about something that already has a past outline. And if you don't know that past outline and how it's applicable right now and what they're doing and how they're cleaning it out, something as simple as Ukraine. See, a lot of people in America, you look at these nations that you've really never heard of until you were told to listen. You look at them as like third world countries. You look at them as like, oh, Ukraine. Oh, I've never been there. Don't know what it looks like. And you develop this pre-perception of something you don't know about. And you also don't Google and read. Most people don't. So you have this pre-perception of like this land that people don't even have what you have, or technology, or phones, or cell phones. They do. And the world has cell phones. The world has technology. The world does. All right? There are some tribes out there still that choose to stay like they've lived in years past, but a lot of the world has technology. Most of the world does. So how is it that Ukraine, this is something real simple, how is it that the 60 million smartphones, we can't get one rebel Ukrainian to go, ooh, I'm going to post this video. I'm not supposed to, but, we ain't seen one single video. I know why. Do you know why? Every screenshot they show of Ukraine, of something being blown up, it looks like Atari 1981. In the world of technology that we have right now, you can zoom in on a flea's toenail on your Ring doorbell. But on these drones, quote unquote, that Ukraine's bombing the hell out of Russia and they're killing them, and it looks like Atari 1981 or the Oregon Trail game that we used to play on computers on the floppy disk way back in the late 80s and early 90s. It looks like digital. Come on, people. Wait till you know what's up. So if you don't know regular warfare, unconventional warfare, guerrilla warfare, which all combined is a term, it's a new age term called hybrid warfare. If you don't know any of that, you're going to be in trouble. Because that's exactly what President Trump just validated on December the 2nd. Validated. And you already have validation that none of this is real, what you're watching. It's a pre-planned strategic operation. Real meaning like when they're showing you certain things taking place with Iran. You know, different things like that. Most of these have already taken place. Most of all these bombings have taken place. Most of all these captures have taken place. Most of all these operations have taken place. The bigger majority of them. I mean, I have all the files. I mean, I still have them. People asked me the other day, I've had people say, well, why don't you post any more of the aircraft? Well, I do. I have them. But my phone is at maximum capacity for pictures. And, I mean, I have 35,000 photos of aircraft in my phone. All right. And I don't know what I'm going to do with them. Someone told me I should put them all in a book, but that would take individually emailing all those to myself and then having to upload them and put them in on documents and stuff. I could do that. It'd take a while, but I could do that. But the aircraft still show to this day that we're still in operations. Certain aircraft in certain nations, which normally wouldn't be that way. There's certain countries in certain countries that they have told you don't get along. Well, why are they in each other's nations? In and out daily. So see, there's so much that you don't know that you can know from another perspective. You can from a aerial view. You're not going to know some of the intricacies yet because you're not privy to that. But you shouldn't be demanding something you're not privy to because it's an operation. And if you're tired of hearing the word operation, well, then you just need to quit completely. You're wasting your time, your energy, when you're not an operator anyway, so just go ahead and quit. Put your time and energy in something that brings you joy. All right? Real simple. We got this. We do want you involved, and you should be involved, but you don't need to be involved if you're going to put demands on something that you don't even know the process, operations, and functions to. Like President Trump's post, December the 2nd. I've shown you for years now, for years, you and I in this platform are in the plural term years. I've shown you Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550 like a broken record. You don't need 14 million laws. You need one, and you need someone who will do what? Enforce it. You need one law, one order for one mission, operation, singular. If you scroll down to the bottom of Section 1550, first off, Section 1550 is from the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, which is your defense budget, which means Congress did what? Funded that. They put this up. When Section 1550 was added to the War Powers Act, which is Chapter 33 of Title 50, which is your National Security Act, National Security Council, Joint Chief of Staffs, Generals, Admirals. See how all this applies? Quote-unquote Joe was the first quote-unquote president in United States history who did not have an order of succession with the National Security Council or the Department of then Defense, now War. Every president's had one. See, a lot of people hear that. You don't do what? You don't apply that. That alone shows you that quote-unquote Joe was not real and he wasn't president. How can you meet with the generals and admirals when you don't even have an order of succession? If you were the president and you died and the last order of succession is with the former president, which has never happened in history before, come on, people. Who was the quote-unquote former president to people that thought that? Maybe President Trump, right? So if quote-unquote Joe was real and quote-unquote Joe was quote-unquote president, the last order of succession was with the former president? And every other president had their own order of succession, meaning if they died, then their people were in place, right? So Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550. Title 50 is your war and national defense. National. Our nation. National. Then you don't apply international law because this is our nation. Let's worry about our nation. That's what Title 50, Chapter 33 is. Chapter 33 is the War Powers Resolution Act. All these liberals out there yelling at President Trump, they don't even have a clue that Obama's name is nowhere in the War Powers Act. So how did Obama command the murder, assassination of Osama bin Laden? And Gaddafi was quote-unquote assassinated. So from May to October, Gaddafi was assassinated in October of that same year that bin Laden was taken out. Assassinated. Who was the leader of Libya? Gaddafi. Where is Benghazi? Libya. Who was under congressional oath for Benghazi? Libya. Hillary. Who was Obama's Secretary of State? Hillary. See how this all adds in? Title 50, National Security. Title 50, War and National Defense. Chapter 33, War Powers Resolution Act of 1973. When Congress overrode a veto by Nixon. See, what they wanted is backfiring on them. Congress of 1973, in that era, overrode a presidential veto. Nixon tried to veto that. Congress took the veto and had a 2/3 vote and passed that law, where a president must declare a national emergency. Then he has 48 hours to report the use of military to them, the Congress. Then he has 60 days to use the military. Then he has a 30-day withdrawal period, which is a total of 90 days. After that 90 days, there must be a congressional authorization by their law, congressional authorization for the military to keep operating. Every one of the military orders that the military is working on right now, 99% of those Title 10 orders came from 2018, 2019, and 2020. I'm pretty sure that's well past 90 days, ladies and gentlemen. The Venezuelan operation was launched April the 1st, 2020 by Southern Command. 4 days before that, 1 million reserve components federalized to active duty. 29 days after the operation was launched, Executive Order 13919, which is 12304 Title 10, which requires pre-funding. It's a pre-planned operation. That's all in our military publications. Can't make this stuff up. The Southern Border Proclamation 9844, February the 5th, 2019. How are troops still going to Texas in 2024? If Google says that quote-unquote Joe terminated that proclamation 9844, then how come quote-unquote Joe doesn't have a single Title 10 order in place? There's no federalization of the troops by quote-unquote Joe. They were all continuation. There's a Title 10 by quote-unquote Joe on paper, but guess what it is? It's a continuation order. When you go read it and understand it, comprehend it, it's a continuation. It said we're adding troops to the border. Well, if they terminated February 5th, 2019, Proclamation 9844, then those troops would have been withdrawn and sent back to their states. They weren't. When President Trump was seen at the border in February 2024, when President Trump, the only person seen at Del Rio in Eagle Pass, Texas, was President Trump, not quote-unquote Joe. Quote-unquote Joe was shown in Brownsville, Texas, the same day. Brownsville has never been the topic on the news anywhere. Nowhere. Everything that was on CNN, Fox, everywhere, MSNBC, all of them, Eagle Pass, Del Rio, the same day. And the Brownsville, Texas, to this day, website says the 47th president visited today. Was quote-unquote Joe the 47th president in 2024? He's supposed to be in the 46th, correct? You know that I have control of all of my websites. I can go to one right now as we speak, as we're talking, and I can edit my website because I can multitask simultaneously. And I could put something in there that says, you know, happy birthday, right in the middle of something random, and update it. And you could go over there and see, oh, he updated it that quick. How come Brownsville, Texas couldn't update their website that quick? They're showing you none of this is real. That's what that means. Because when you have all the laws and orders around it that show what's going on, all this stuff is not real. Meaning like they're doing this on purpose to show you. The real president's over in Del Rio with the governor of Texas and the adjutant general. When President Trump was seen with that adjutant general, that gave it all away. Because the governor was there in the wheelchair and the adjutant general reports to the governor unless the National Guard are federalized by Title 10. Then he reports to whom? That adjutant general reports directly to the commander-in-chief. Why was President Donald John Trump the only person with a presidential title seen with the governor of Texas and the adjutant general in February 2024? Which would have been a breach of national security if he was a former president. It would also have been a violation of federal law. It would also have been a violation of his own Executive Order 13848 with a national emergency for election interference because it was an election year. And the Democrats, the people who thought the Democrats were in control, thought they had a Democrat president, they didn't prosecute him for that. They're still trying to get him on some bogus bullcrap with a hooker. And the whole world's witnessing right there on the border of Texas, a quote-unquote former president with a governor and adjutant general saying we're in a military operation. He specifically said twice, we're in a military operation. That's your commander-in-chief. Rank structure. Chain of command was shown to you right there, visually. And the week before and the week after, 14 states deployed to Texas. The week before President Trump and the week after. 14 states. So if Proclamation 9844 was terminated by quote-unquote Joe, how are 14 states deploying to Texas? They got to be under a Title 10 order, a presidential federalization call-up. Now apply your December the 2nd post. None of anything by quote-unquote Joe was applicable by law. That's how the quote-unquote termination by quote-unquote Joe was not real. And that's why Proclamation 9844 from February the 5th, 2019 was still in place. Because if you didn't have laws and orders in place and President Trump was just commanding the military around, you could look at it as sedition to overthrow the government. You could look at it that way if you didn't have the laws and orders in place. Because you do have to have laws and orders. Since we deem this in our world, we have laws and orders, we're a nation of laws and orders, we need to have those to be able to say, hey, we didn't create any loopholes, we didn't cut any corners, we didn't do anything unlawfully, here's the law, here's what we did under the law, here's our actions under the law. That's why liberals look atrocious. I don't know any word worse than atrocious besides disgusting, because, again, a bunch of people who've never been in the military demanding that the military don't take unlawful orders. They're not unlawful. You got to know the laws to know what is lawful. That's why Republicans and conservatives, you don't want to look like them, and a lot of you are doing what? You're looking like them, but you're on the polar opposite side of the fence. But you're demanding these arrests. You're demanding that the microwave speed up the process on a frozen food plate because you're hungry. So you're yelling at the microwave to speed up. Hurry up! Cook my food! Get done! Be done! It's a process. So, you don't want to look atrocious. You want to know what's going on, then you need to know, hey, there's got to be something to this little dash right here. In punctuation, if I said, hey, I'm going to be in New York in April, from April 25th to April the 30th, why would I type out 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th? Why don't I just put a dash there, because that's what we know as, oh, he's going to be there from April 25th through April the 30th. Punctuation, grammar. This stuff hasn't changed. And see, that's what law is heavy on terminology, but also sequence. Where is a colon? Is it a colon or a semicolon? Is it a comma there or not a comma? Is there a dash there? Is there a forward slash? Is there a backward slash? We have punctuation for a reason. And this right here is your full validation. You don't need anything else. You only need the laws and the orders that apply to that 45-47. And unfortunately, I'm the only one that outlines it like I do, with a lot of other components out there of people that I talk to and I'm on podcasts with that are even way bigger, like Colonel Sellers, Lieutenant Colonel Lennox, Lieutenant Colonel Bosey, Major Jim O'Connor's. There's a lot of people who are, and of course I've been on with General Paul Vallely. All right. Now, certain ones can say certain things. Some of them still sound like they're in the moment right now, but it's because they can and can't say certain things. And a lot of you got to remember, colonels, just because they were colonels, they still serve with whom? People who went on to become what? Generals, admirals. And a lot of you just, you mean well. So a lot of you mean well. A lot of you have a good heart. A lot of you have a conscience. Well, I'm trying to show you that. Here's the ingredients you need to go with your good heart, to go with your conscience, to go with your goodwill. You need to have this. This is the component you're missing. This is what you need to make applicable to your family, your friends. A lot of you are bold. A lot of you are brave. A lot of you do have that, what it takes to talk to your friends and family, to tell them, well, you don't have to like it, and you can think I'm crazy, and you can call me names. And a lot of you have the boldness and the bravery, the courage to talk to your friends and family and not worry about what they think. But you need the key ingredients. And you got to stop leaving out what you think you know through your life, though. You can't be putting in your little tiny experience unless you are a veteran especially, all right, and you have that, right, that can be applicable. But things like the 50-50 topics, keep that out of it. The only way you're going to win your family and friends over is to keep out your personal beliefs on Israel, God, Jesus, this, that. All right, keep your personal beliefs out of it. Separate that. Show them the component of 45-47 that applies to 45-47. Your personal beliefs don't apply to it. That's how we win everyone over. That's how we quell all the arguing and we quell all the looks like disarray. That's how we quell that. Say, look, I'm not here to tell you what to believe in, how to believe, who to like, who to love. That's between you and your maker. And if you don't believe in a maker, then guess what? That's between you and whatever you believe. Here's how we live in peace, in accordance with the laws and the orders. Here's how we can apply everything. Here's how you can pull your weight. Here's how I pull my weight. It's an action. The words like love, respect, Those are actions. They're not words you just say, oh, you're disrespecting me. If someone's saying that, vocalizing it, they don't even have a clue what the word means. They don't understand the component of it. Respect, disrespect. If they're vocalizing, you don't respect me, you disrespect. You don't have to vocalize it. It's an action. It has to be reciprocated. Daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. Trust. There's another one. Trust is not a word you can just use. It's reciprocated actions. And what social media has done, it's watered down this. It's watered down the in-person shaking of the hand or fist bump if you don't like shaking hands. But it's taken away this right here. It's created all this rage up here with people, and they just lash out and attack and yell and kick and cuss and scream and fight. When 99% of them won't do it in person. They won't. I've had one person out of a hate group show up at one of my events. One. And they didn't even do anything at it. They were trying to sneak around and take photos, and they were going to try to Photoshop a bunch of stuff and make it look a certain way. But they never said a word. They don't. They don't show up. That's why all the events of September the 10th was nothing but PSYOP and all part of the operation. And you know what I'm talking about, September the 10th. Because if anybody was going to have haters show up and say, try to do something, pretty sure it'd be me. And they ain't out there. They're a bunch of weasels, as the saying is. Now, things can happen in life, for sure. But there's a lot of stuff that they're showing you that is too accurate to be real. Meaning, I'm a deer hunter. I'm going hunting here shortly. When I throw that 30-06 up like this, there's a chance I can miss because I'm human. One, I'm a pretty good shot, but there's a chance. There's a chance the deer moves. There's a chance that a twig is in the way. Hits that bullet. Throws it off just a little bit. There's always chances in the woods. So how is it that all of a sudden that all these little pipsqueaks that they're showing, they look like they're still going through puberty, still got little pimples on their face. How is it that they're hitting on the first shot at 150 plus yards? Come on, people. When you think that and you believe that, you're doing a disjustice to every sniper, every expert shooter, every sharpshooter, and every hunter out there. Because we know our weapons. We know what they're capable of. All right? So that all these things are showing you. Now, that don't mean that they're lying to you. See, that's the other thing I've seen people say. I've seen all these quote-unquote patriots out there say, oh, they're lying to us. They just keep... No, they're not. It's an operation. Stop saying that. Or keep saying that because you're exposing yourself. You're exposing you don't need a platform. You're exposing you don't need a name because you're just seeking fame and face recognition. Nobody's lying to you. The whole thing's an operation. But what would you suggest? I've said this before. Write me a 3 or 5 page essay of what would you do different. All of you holier than thous and all of you quote-unquote couch experts, what would you do different? What do you think what do you think it would look like? We had all these central banks. We had all these crown organizations. We had all these things that had gotten so big at a world level, right? We had all these people using hedge funds and stocks and bonds with certain names that looked real that you wouldn't have known because you don't even know the functions and processes of the stock market itself. Therefore, you have to know people who are on the inside who goes, that looks like it, but it ain't. They're doing this, 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 and this. See, you had to have a lot of what? Good moles on the inside. The way you infiltrate something is go from the inside out, right? That's still warfare that a lot of you don't know about. Look at all of what the swamp had built all these years. They built it. That's why they were so confident they weren't going to be caught. That's why they've been operating in the open. And a lot of you not even caring, and they've told you. They have shown you corruption right in front of you. They've even put things right in front of you that was corrupt. Even things like Libya, Benghazi, they put right in front of you, and you never demanded anything. The few who did were what? You were outweighed by whom? The mobs who just yell for what? Drama, propaganda, because you don't know the verbiage, the language. You don't know how to hold people accountable because you don't know the accountability language. So see, bingo. Corruption's always been there. It's been at these massive levels, and the checks and balances they created to themselves. It's like the TV show Matlock, not the new one. I don't like what they did with that. I love old school Matlock, right? And it showed Matlock go in with the judge and the other attorney. The judge and the other attorney wanted to cut a deal. No, I'm not cutting a deal. My guy's innocent, and I'm going to prove it. Who were mad? That judge and that other attorney. But a lot of cases in history, you've seen that happen with whom? O.J. Simpson, Casey Anthony, right? They created drama. Oh, the grandparents knew, and the this and the that. The grandpa did this and that. Drama. That wasn't no more evidence. They didn't have evidence. And the evidence they had showed, this ain't looking good for this person. But they what? They brought money and drama and propaganda into it. And then the judges and the lawyers are going in the back that you never saw that process. You never heard that, saw that. They went back because you were too focused on the stuff they were showing on TV. Y'all weren't out in the front of the courthouse demanding to see the judge, demanding to see the lawyers. Oh no, you got hooked on the drama, the propaganda. Oh, she's guilty. Oh, she's innocent. You didn't look at what was going on back here. These judges, these lawyers going back, and they cut deals with each other. They come back out there and they look like they're mad at each other, and they look like they're fighting each other, and they look like they're going hard at it. They'd already cut a deal back here. That's what Congress was doing. Republicans, Democrats, they looked like they were, saying something against them. And here you are, you think you're yelling for a demand. You think you're yelling for an action. You're yelling for something that requires accountability, and you don't even know your responsibility because you're stuck on drama, and you're stuck on propaganda, and you're stuck on things that don't matter, which is a bunch of noise. That's why there's a quote out there, and I love it. It says, stop focusing on what the enemy's shouting and start listening to what God is whispering in your ear. See, a lot of you claim to be Christians, but a lot of you have already predetermined what you want God to say. You don't sit back with that old verse that says, be still and know that I am God. See, no, everybody wants to get out ahead of God and say, God, this is what I want. Now come up here and meet me. Oh, I love you, God. No, you don't do that. You're supposed to sit back. He's in control. He's in command. Now, you can have a shovel, but you can't lean on that shovel and pray for a hole and expect God to dig the hole for you. Right? So there's a checks and balance to do with government that's a checks and balance. Right? Which means you always have to be active and involved, but you got to know what? You got to know your responsibility to know how accountability works. Same thing with God in your personal lives. And I'm not here to preach to you on what you're doing out there, but I'm just coming at the application level, is that you can't lean on a shovel and pray for a hole. That ain't how God works. All right, you want a hole to be dug, what you can do is say, God, boy, I sure hope this ground is fertile. I hope it's not like a brick like South Texas is in the middle of August. All right? God, let this hole, boy, give me strength. Give me the energy to dig this hole. That's how God works. And a lot of you are focusing still on too much drama, noise, propaganda, voices, and faces who don't matter. We would not have recording of a Moses if everybody in that wilderness knew how to get out of that wilderness. There were a lot more people in that wilderness, and there was one Moses. That's what you got to focus on. Quit worrying about why do I know, how do I know, why am I the only one saying what I'm saying. Those who have read, those who have studied, those who have made those books, #1 bestsellers, they outline what they outline. And once you read it, you can't unread it, you can't unsee it, and you can't unknow it when you know it. And when you see it, well, let's say it this way. When you see it, when you read it, when you know it, you're going to be what? Validated. You're going to be relieved. All right? You're going to have that calmness, that peace. You'll be able to breathe like that. You won't have any worries or concerns. You'll know this whole thing is a process and an operation. But then in 2028, 29, 30, 31, out there, you will have the manna, as the Bible talks about, the holy manna. You will have the ingredients that you need for your family, your friends, but also the future, which means the generations to come, your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren. All right? They're the ones who have to read this, study this, and protect it. Right? That's how Native Americans were. Native Americans. And I just happen to have Native American blood. All right? I'm not a massive percentage, but I got it. All right? You think 7 generations out. You live today for the 7th generation. A lot of people aren't doing that. A lot of people are living for right now, this moment, the feeling, and feelings are what gets you in trouble. Feelings are what gets you in trouble. If God worked on feelings, we'd be in trouble. All right, God can handle feelings, but the Bible is not built on feelings and emotions. The Bible is solid and it's steady. These laws and orders that make up that 45-47, they're solid foundation. They're steady. And until you have that every day in your life, every morning you wake up, every time you read something that President Trump either posted or either something slid through your viewpoint, and if it shakes you, if you don't have a solid foundation, it's going to shake you. But see, when you have a solid foundation, you can't be shook. You can still look at something that is way out there, but you won't be shaken because you know what President Trump's working with. And that's what the books do, and my platforms are here for you. All right? They're to make you think strategically, critically. Sometimes I post things that leave it wide open. All right? And then I'll follow up with a post that applies to it. But the first post may be to get you thinking and to go read and study what that is because it's already there. Some I do outline in great detail. But when I outline them some in great detail with all the answers, people don't do what? Read and study that. So we got a critical and strategic thinking problem in this nation. Too many people want things still spoon-fed. You can't do that. What I'm here for is to get your little hamster going in your brain, right? But it's only to do with this. That's it. And it's not to hang you out there. Everything's already out there. So my posts are not hanging you out to dry. Everything's already there. There's nothing new that's going to come out of all this. The only thing new that's going to come out of all this is your validation points. But there's nothing new out of all this. All the things have been taken care of. President Trump said, we have it all, we've caught them all. We have it all, we've caught them all. Oh, there's a little pronoun. See how everything just backfires on the deep state, the cabal, the libtards, the people who just want to keep drama and propaganda stirred up. And there's a lot of Republicans in that too, because they don't have your best interest. And that's why guys like me, and there's a few of us, but guys like me don't care about the name, the face, the this, the that. Right? And that's how we're steady. And that's why we're consistent, is because we already know. We've been chosen for this very moment. And, you know, I thank God for giving me that opportunity. I asked for it, I got it. And so that's all you need to know. So I'm going to go enjoy a day of hunting. And this week and the rest of the season, I'm going to be hunting, enjoying wildlife and nature, getting out, getting my much needed exercise in. And that's what I highly suggest that some of you do. Get out more. Go hike. Go fish. Go hunt. Whatever it is that you do. Call someone you ain't called in a while. Have a conversation with a family member you ain't talked to in a while. All right? Don't get to be an old woman or old man and look back and wish you'd have done more, said more. A lot of you have forgotten that. Get off of social media occasionally. All right? Forget about algorithms. Forget about that. All right? Because all you need is in the 45-47. That's all you need. You can want more, but you don't need to. All you need is what President Donald John Trump is the face of, and the people who know what's going on lawfully via irregular warfare, unconventional warfare, guerrilla warfare, hybrid warfare, government exile, puppet government. You need to know all those things. And once you know those, you got it lit, as the old country saying is. You got it lit. You got it whipped. All right? You got it. You got this. So, it's good to be back. And I'll get this posted up on Rumble very soon and get the link to you, because Facebook is now changing their things up where they delete the video after a certain amount of time. So I'll get you the link to this where you can post it to your friends and family and tell them to get in the know, get involved, know their responsibility and their duty. That way they can demand accountability when the accountability is to be demanded.